Listen closely, because what I'm about to share could change everything for you. 2026 is not just another year. It's an opportunity, a blank page, a chance to rewrite your story. But here's the truth. Nothing will change unless you change. The patterns, the habits, the excuses that have held you back, they end now. Today, I'm going to show you how to break free, take control, and step into a year where your results, your energy, and your life are completely different. If you're ready to stop waiting and start creating, then lean in, because this is your moment. Most people step into a new year with a false sense of hope, as if flipping a calendar page automatically means life will somehow change. They think this year will be different while doing the exact same things, thinking the exact same thoughts, and surrounding themselves with the same people. Let me tell you something, 2026 will not change unless you do. You cannot keep recycling the same habits, the same excuses, the same mindset, and expect a different result. That is a recipe for disappointment. That is how years slip away one after the other, leaving people feeling stuck, frustrated, and wondering where all their time went. The first step to making 2026 truly different is to look in the mirror and be brutally honest with yourself. Stop pretending that everything is fine when you know it isn't. Stop making excuses for why you haven't reached your goals, why you haven't pursued that dream, why you keep repeating the same patterns. It's time to stop rationalizing failure and start taking responsibility for your life. Responsibility is not a burden, it's freedom. When you acknowledge that your results are tied directly to your actions, your mindset, and your choices, you gain control. And control is the foundation of transformation. Think about the habits you've held onto for years. The little behaviors that seem harmless but actually keep you trapped. The scrolling on your phone for hours, the procrastination, the negative self-talk, the I'll start tomorrow mentality. Individually, these habits might seem small, but they compound over time, and before you know it, a year passes and you're in the same place. What if, instead of waiting for motivation to strike, you decided to break the pattern today? What if you rewired your brain to no longer tolerate the excuses, the distractions, and the procrastination? That is how breakthroughs happen, not by chance, not by luck, but by decisive action that interrupts the cycle you've been stuck in. Breaking a pattern requires awareness and courage. Awareness, because you have to first recognize the cycles you are in. The habits, the people, the routines that are holding you back. Courage, because change is uncomfortable. Your brain resists it. Your comfort zone fights it. But comfort zones are traps disguised as safety. You cannot create a different future from within the same old mental and emotional space. You must stretch. You must push. You must dare to step into the unknown. You must refuse to be a victim of your circumstances. Here's something powerful. The exact same people you've been surrounded by, the same environment, the same routines, they will produce the exact same results. If 2026 is going to be different, you need to be different first. That doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out, but it does mean you must start acting like someone who is already creating the life they desire. You must make decisions as if the version of yourself you want to become already exists and deserves to be seen. That is how transformation begins, by aligning your actions today with the person you intend to be tomorrow. Now, I know that stepping into this kind of accountability is intimidating. Fear will whisper, maybe you're not ready, maybe you'll fail, maybe it's too late. Ignore that voice. Every single person who has ever achieved something remarkable faced those exact same doubts. The difference is they acted anyway. They made a decision to stop recycling the old year, to stop recycling the same excuses, to stop recycling the same limiting beliefs. And that is exactly what I want for you. I want you to make a decision right now in this moment to break free from the patterns that have kept you small, to stop waiting for circumstances to change, and instead to change yourself so that 2026 becomes a reflection of your growth, your courage, and your relentless action. Understand this is not about waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect moment. It's about recognizing the habits, thoughts, and cycles that are keeping you trapped, and then choosing to interrupt them. Every day that you recycle the same behaviors, you are reinforcing the old results. Every day that you interrupt the pattern, you are moving closer to the life you deserve. You don't need permission from anyone. You don't need validation. All you need is the decision to step into your power, to take control of your choices, and to refuse to accept mediocrity as your default. So as you think about 2026, don't fantasize about a year that will magically solve your problems. Fantasize instead about the version of yourself who refuses to settle, who refuses to recycle failure, who refuses to be average. That version exists. It's waiting inside of you. All you have to do is step into it. The moment you break the pattern, the moment you take control of your habits, thoughts, and actions, that is when your year begins to change. That is when 2026 stops being just another number and becomes the year you finally take charge of your destiny. 2026 will be different, but only if you decide to make it different. Most people step into a new year thinking about what they want, but rarely do they think about what they are no longer willing to tolerate. That's where the real transformation begins. You see, life doesn't change because you hope or wish. Life changes because you draw a line in the sand and say, I will no longer accept this. You decide what no longer serves you, what drains your energy, what diminishes your confidence, what keeps you from stepping into your full potential. Until you make that decision, 2026 will just be another repetition of the past. Think about the standards you've allowed in your life. How many of them are there simply because you never challenged them? How many excuses have you tolerated simply because they were easier than confrontation or discipline? The truth is, most people don't lack goals. They lack boundaries. They lack clarity about what they will and will not accept from themselves and from others. And boundaries are powerful because they define the space in which you operate, the quality of your relationships, the level of your productivity, and the energy you bring into your own life. When you decide what you will no longer tolerate, you are reclaiming control over your life. You are no longer at the mercy of habits, fears, or circumstances. You are no longer letting other people define your worth or your trajectory. This is about saying no to what is weak, what is distracting, and what is destructive, and saying yes to the version of yourself that demands more, gives more, and becomes more. You begin to operate from a place of high standards because you have recognized that anything less only produces mediocrity. Many people wait for external forces to motivate them to raise their standards. They wait for someone to tell them they deserve better, or for the perfect moment to arrive, or for life to finally hand them an opportunity. But that is a trap. Life does not reward waiting. Life rewards the person who draws the line, who sets the standard, who decides what is unacceptable and refuses to compromise. When you do this, everything else starts to align. The decisions you make, the habits you build, the people you allow into your circle. Everything changes because your internal rules have changed. It's not enough to have vague intentions like, I want to be healthier, or I want to be successful. You must define clearly what you will no longer accept. I want you to think about the excuses, the toxic relationships, the negative self-talk, the fear that has been holding you back. Now say out loud, I will not allow this to continue in 2026. It's a declaration. It's a commitment. And once that commitment is made, something shifts in your physiology, your psychology, and your behavior. You become someone who cannot settle for less than what you are capable of. When you refuse to tolerate the old patterns, your energy changes, your confidence rises, you start seeing opportunities that were always there, but you couldn't notice them because you were distracted by compromise, doubt, and comfort. You start holding yourself accountable in ways that scare you, but that's exactly where growth lives. Change is uncomfortable, yes, but discomfort is the price of transformation. If you want 2026 to be different, you must be willing to pay that price consistently every single day. And here's the beautiful part. When you raise your standards, the world responds. People respect boundaries. Opportunities gravitate toward those who value themselves. The energy you project signals that you are serious, that you are committed, that you are not willing to waste time on mediocrity. You stop chasing results and start commanding results because you have decided that you deserve better, and you will no longer settle for anything less. This is also about self-respect. You cannot expect life to elevate you if you are willing to accept less from yourself. Every decision you make, every habit you form, every relationship you engage in, it either reinforces your standards or erodes them. In 2026, the most powerful move you can make is to stop tolerating what diminishes you, to refuse what drains you, and to commit to what strengthens you. So as you step into this new year, do not just make resolutions. Do not just make wish lists. Decide what you are no longer willing to tolerate. Decide what will no longer define you, what will no longer limit you, and what will no longer steal your energy. Make that decision now, because once you do, everything else begins to shift. Decide, commit. Refuse to accept less than what you are capable of. 2026 will be different, but only if you refuse to accept the old limits. Most people fail not because their goals are too big, but because they never break them down into the steps that actually move the needle. They look at the mountain and freeze, paralyzed by its size, thinking, I'll never get there. Let me tell you something, the mountain only seems insurmountable if you focus on its peak. The secret to transforming your life, to making 2026 truly different, is learning how to turn huge goals into small, non-negotiable daily steps. That is where real power lies. It's not in some grand, sweeping gesture. It's in the simple, consistent actions that nobody sees, the habits you build behind the scenes, the disciplines you apply when no one is watching. Think about it for a moment. Every massive achievement, every breakthrough you admire was not accomplished in a single day. It was built step by step, increment by increment. The person who writes a best-selling book doesn't sit down and complete it in one sitting. They write a page, then another, and another. The person who builds a thriving business doesn't have an overnight explosion. They show up every day, take imperfect action, adjust, and keep moving. Success is the sum of small, intentional steps compounded over time. So if you want 2026 to be different, you must start thinking in terms of daily actions, not just lofty goals. Don't ask yourself, how will I achieve this massive dream? Ask yourself, what is one thing I can do today that moves me closer to it? Then do it. And tomorrow, ask the same question again. Repeat, repeat, repeat. This is how you shrink the mountain. This is how you take a goal that once felt impossible and make it inevitable. Here's another truth most people never grasp. Consistency beats intensity every single time. You could spend 1 week working with insane intensity, but if you quit after that, it means nothing. Small, repeated, consistent steps build momentum. Momentum is your secret weapon. Once momentum is on your side, progress becomes natural, almost unstoppable. But to create momentum, you have to be willing to start small, to embrace actions that feel almost too simple, because simplicity is where power begins. Let's be clear, turning huge goals into small steps is not about lowering your standards. It's not about doing less. It's about structuring your energy so that it compounds. It's about creating a system that guarantees progress no matter what. A system where your daily actions become non-negotiable, where excuses are removed, and where the path to your goal becomes obvious. You want to change your year. Stop trying to sprint up the mountain. Start walking one intentional step at a time in the exact direction of your goal. That's how you build confidence, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. One of the most powerful tools you can use is a daily ritual. This is not something optional. This is something sacred. It's the small steps you take consistently, whether it's 20 minutes of focused learning, a call to a potential client, a workout, journaling, or visualization. When repeated every day, these small actions create massive results. The difference between people who dream and people who achieve is not luck. It's ritual. It's a set of small, deliberate actions that no one else sees, but everyone else eventually benefits from. Another key aspect is clarity. If you don't know the exact steps you need to take, you will wander. You will waste energy on activity that produces no results. Break your goal down until it is crystal clear what you must do daily, weekly, and monthly. This removes fear, removes overwhelm, and replaces it with a roadmap. The mountain is no longer intimidating because you know exactly where to put your feet. And as you take those steps, you start to believe in your own ability. You start to see progress. And that belief fuels more action, creating a cycle of unstoppable growth. Finally, remember that action breeds confidence. Waiting for motivation is a trap. Motivation is fleeting, action is permanent. When you commit to small, non-negotiable steps, you generate results, and results generate more belief. The mountain that once seemed impossible begins to shrink before your eyes. Suddenly, what felt out of reach is now inevitable because you've built it brick by brick, day by day. So if you want 2026 to be different, start today. Stop looking at the whole mountain and focus on your first step, then your next, then the next. Make those steps non-negotiable. Compel yourself to act every single day. That is how you transform a massive, overwhelming goal into something achievable. That is how you turn a dream into a reality. That is how you make the impossible small and your success inevitable. The mountain only looks big until you start climbing step by step. Most people think change happens when they act differently, but it's only half the story. Real transformation happens when who you are changes first. You see, goals are important, strategies are important, but the person you become is the deciding factor. 2026 will be different, not because the calendar changes, not because luck intervenes, not because motivation strikes. It will be different because you shift from being someone who tries to do things differently to someone who is different. Identity is everything. The moment you begin to see yourself in a new way, your behavior, your choices, and your results follow automatically. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you said, I want to be disciplined or I want to be successful, and yet found yourself failing anyway? Why? Because your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are, doesn't match the goal. You can want to be disciplined all you want, but if deep down you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, you will act according to your identity, not your desire. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is the reason most people don't change. If you want a different 2026, you have to bridge the gap by becoming the person who naturally achieves what you desire. Identity is formed by your beliefs, your habits, and your consistent actions. If you want to be someone who achieves massive success, you have to start thinking, acting, and deciding like that person every single day. You have to adopt the mindset that this is who you are. This is not a temporary effort. This is not an act. This is you. You are not trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You are not hoping to be strong. You are strong. You are not aspiring to win. You are a winner. And the moment you truly embrace that identity, your actions will follow effortlessly. Most people underestimate the power of their self-concept. They let old stories define them. They let past failures dictate their future. But here's the truth, your past does not equal your future. The only thing that matters is the identity you choose today. Every decision you make, every action you take, every thought you entertain, it is all either reinforcing the identity that holds you back or building the identity that propels you forward. If you want 2026 to be different, you must start making choices that are aligned with the person you want to become, not the person you used to be. This is why rituals and consistent habits are so powerful. When you act in alignment with your desired identity day after day, your identity strengthens. You stop fighting yourself. You stop relying on motivation, willpower, or luck. You simply operate from a new default. You start seeing yourself differently. And once your self-image shifts, everything else changes. Your confidence, your energy, your decisions, the people you attract, the results you produce, identity creates destiny. Let me be clear, this is not about pretending or faking it. It's about commitment. It's about stepping into the truth of your potential. It's about rejecting the stories that have held you back and embracing the story that empowers you. It's about seeing yourself as someone who cannot fail, not because circumstances are perfect, but because your identity drives action that leads to results no matter what. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every challenge becomes an opportunity because your identity is anchored in who you are, not in what happens to you. The person you become is the filter through which your 2026 experiences will pass. If you become someone committed, resilient, and unshakable, you will act differently and life will respond differently. If you become someone who tolerates mediocrity and excuses, the year will reflect that. Your external world cannot rise above the limits of your internal identity. That is why mastering your identity is non-negotiable. That is why who you decide to be this year matters more than what you decide to do. So here's what I want you to do to find the identity that will make 2026 different. Don't focus on a single outcome. Focus on the person you must become to achieve that outcome. Visualize it, feel it, believe it. Act like that person, speak like that person, Make decisions like that person every single day and then watch what happens. The momentum builds, confidence builds, energy builds, and your life begins to change because you have changed from the inside out. The most powerful thing you can do this year is not chase results. It's become the person who produces those results effortlessly. The actions will follow, the opportunities will appear, the success will become inevitable. Change your identity, and 2026 will be different. Who you are today determines everything you experience tomorrow. Most people never realize that the difference between mediocrity and extraordinary results is not talent, not luck, not resources. It's focus. What you give your attention to determines what you create in your life. In 2026, if you want your life to be different, you must master your focus. You must learn to lock in and eliminate distractions that drain your energy and scatter your results. Most people think they are focused, but their attention is pulled in 100 directions. Social media, emails, gossip, fear, worry, and the endless what ifs. This is why so many people feel busy but achieve nothing meaningful. Focus is not just about working hard. Focus is about working smart, intentionally, and ruthlessly on what truly matters. Every choice you make about where to direct your energy either moves you closer to your goals or farther away from them. If 2026 is going to be different, you must become someone who protects their attention like it is the most valuable currency in the world. Because it is. Every minute spent on distractions is a minute spent reinforcing the old patterns you are trying to escape. To master focus, you need clarity on what matters most. Most people think everything is important, and because of that, nothing is. They fill their days with low-value tasks, endless notifications, and busy work, then wonder why results never appear. If you want a different year, you must prioritize relentlessly. Decide which actions are non-negotiable, which projects deserve your full energy, and which people, habits, or thoughts are draining you. Once you have that clarity, it becomes easier to say no to what doesn't serve your vision. Here's the truth: distractions are designed to keep you small. They are everywhere, waiting for you to lose your focus, to react instead of act, to drift through the day without intention. If you allow them to dictate your life, 2026 will look just like every other year. But the moment you take control of your attention, everything changes. When you lock in, when you choose what to focus on and refuse to be pulled away, you become unstoppable. You stop spinning your wheels. You start producing results that compound over time. Mastering focus also means creating environments that support your goals. Your external environment has a huge influence on your internal state. The people you spend time with, the spaces you occupy, the media you consume. All of it either strengthens your focus or erodes it. In 2026, if you want to be different, you must surround yourself with stimuli that elevate you. Remove distractions, remove energy drains, and build a space that compels you to act with intensity, clarity, and purpose. Discipline is nothing without focus. You can have incredible willpower, but if your energy is scattered, it won't translate into meaningful results. That's why mastering focus is about consistency, rituals, and non-negotiable habits. It's about defining blocks of time where you are fully present, fully engaged, and completely committed to producing outcomes. It's about protecting those blocks against interruptions, against the temptation to multitask, against the endless noise that surrounds you. When you lock in, you create a ripple effect. Your energy becomes sharper. Your decisions become clearer. Your results begin to multiply, and the beauty of focus is that it compounds. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes. The more your mind is trained to concentrate on what matters most, the less power distractions have over you. And suddenly, the year that once felt uncontrollable becomes manageable, predictable, and full of possibility. The secret to making 2026 different is not working longer hours or trying harder. It's working smarter, with undivided attention on the things that truly matter. Every email you ignore, every notification you mute, every unnecessary meeting you decline is a vote for your vision. Every moment you spend fully engaged in high-value activity is a building block for extraordinary results. Focus doesn't just increase your productivity, it changes your mindset, your energy, your confidence, and your belief in what's possible. And remember, focus is not something you turn on occasionally, it is a lifestyle. It is a commitment to yourself and your future. It is a declaration that you refuse to be distracted by what doesn't serve your purpose. It is a discipline that becomes a habit, that becomes identity, that becomes unstoppable momentum. When you combine clarity, discipline, and focus, the results are inevitable. So if you want 2026 to be different, don't just wish for change, lock in. Remove the noise, protect your energy, prioritize relentlessly, and dedicate yourself to the actions that will move you forward every single day. Nothing changes until focus becomes your standard, your default, and your non-negotiable. Your results will reflect exactly where your attention goes. Most people wait for the perfect moment to act, as if life will hand them the ideal opportunity wrapped in a bow. They wait for motivation to strike, for conditions to be flawless, for fear to disappear. But here's the truth: nothing changes until you take action. Not perfect action, not ideal action. Imperfect action, messy action, uncomfortable action. That is what transforms lives. If 2026 is going to be different, you must step into courage and take action. Even before you feel ready. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. Every successful person you admire, every breakthrough, every leap forward, they all began with imperfect steps. They acted while scared, uncertain, and unprepared. And that is exactly what you must do. The problem is that most people confuse waiting with preparation. They think they need more knowledge, more confidence, more resources before they can start. But the reality is, knowledge alone will never move you. Confidence alone will never move you. Preparation without action is just planning. Action is the engine of transformation. Every step you take, no matter how small, creates momentum. Momentum creates belief. Belief fuels more action. That cycle is unstoppable once you begin. Here's the thing, action doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be consistent. You don't have to know exactly how it's going to work out. You don't have to wait until every piece of the puzzle is in place. You just have to start. The very act of starting is what separates dreamers from achievers. One small step taken right now shifts everything. One decision to act immediately instead of delaying puts you ahead of 95% of the people who are still stuck in hesitation. Action compounds. Start small, but start now. And yes, taking action is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Doing things you've never done before, stepping into unknown territory. Confronting fear, it is uncomfortable. That is exactly why most people don't do it. Comfort is the enemy of progress. But discomfort is the bridge to transformation. When you embrace discomfort as a signal that you are moving in the right direction, fear becomes a guide instead of a barrier. The more uncomfortable the action, the greater the growth. Every time you act courageously, you rewire your brain, expand your capacity, and prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you imagined. You must also understand that action without clarity is wasted energy. Taking imperfect steps doesn't mean taking random steps. It means acting in alignment with your vision, even if the path isn't fully clear. It means moving forward with intention. Using each action to learn, adjust, and course correct. The path to success is rarely a straight line. It's a series of calculated, courageous moves, each one teaching you something new, each one bringing you closer to the results you desire. The biggest difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't is this: the achievers act every single day. They take responsibility for their lives through action. They don't wait for circumstances to improve. They don't wait for external validation. They act imperfectly, consistently, and courageously, and the universe responds. Action builds confidence faster than any motivational speech ever will. Action transforms fear into momentum. Action makes the impossible real in 2026. Don't wait for permission from the world. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now. The perfect time is a myth. Start with what you have, where you are, and with the imperfect tools at your disposal. Every step forward teaches you something you could never learn from planning alone. Every risk you take, every move you make builds resilience, sharpens your judgment, and expands your capacity to succeed. Action is also the antidote to regret. Most people fear failure, but the real tragedy is not failing. It's doing nothing. It's staying stuck in hesitation while life passes by. Regret is heavier, sharper, and more persistent than any fear you might feel today. Action, even if it leads to temporary setbacks, creates learning, growth, and momentum. Inaction creates nothing but disappointment and what-ifs. If you want 2026 to be different, you must take action relentlessly. So step into courage. Move forward before you feel ready. Take imperfect action every single day. Embrace discomfort as a sign that you are growing. Let momentum replace hesitation. Make 2026 the year you stop waiting and start doing. The year you refuse to let fear control your life. The year your boldest moves define your success. Nothing changes until you move.